Tuesday evening and it's 6 p.m. UK time. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in Southeast London, and with me as usual is Gregory. Oh, I think we just lost Gregory. We'll get him back. Gregory, are you back?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, welcome. Just to let you know, in London here, it's dark now and it's been quite cold and overcast. How is it where you are?
The same thing as you have in London.
Okay, very good. So welcome listeners. As I said, this is the Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the GRAIL message by Uprushing. And we have a new topic for discussion every week. The topic tonight is respect. Love thy neighbor as thyself. We'll say that again. It's respect. Love thy neighbor as thyself. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Greg, I'm noticing again the echo. I don't know if you can hear it as well.
Yes, I can.
Okay. I don't know if anybody can help us with that. It looks like it's just fine now. So yes, and I'd like to begin with, what is the GRAIL message? The GRAIL message, in the light of truth, by Uprushing, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The GRAIL message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the GRAIL message, Uprushing. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the GRAIL message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the GRAIL message lives so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic for tonight's discussion is respect, love thy neighbour as thyself. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, as you know, I like to look at the title and look at the words in the title or topic and find their meaning in the dictionary. So as usual, I've done that, and the first word there is respect. So the meaning I've got in the dictionary for that is a feeling of deep admiration for someone. Oh, okay, I've got the echo again. A feeling of deep admiration for someone or something, elicited by their abilities, qualities, or achievements. Yes, can I ask you if that's a good definition for the meaning of respect?
Well, thanks. As we keep our discussions basically looking at the spiritual perspectives. By spiritual perspective, one is referring to that which has come into existence through the laws of creation, and of which the laws of nature are a precipitation of the laws of creation. So, to have a firm structure regarding to these meanings, one must look at the spiritual perspective. What the dictionary records basically are the intellectual perspective, which has been so densified that many times the picture is not very clear, because that which is very rigid is unable to provide a picture which is very dynamic. So when you just mentioned the title of the discussion, your reference is such that when one needs to examine these things very objectively, one will find that what must be considered are the deep meanings. So when one is referring to respect, it is assumed that first, that word respect applies to human personalities from, according to what one has read or what you have read out. But respect can also be to non-human personalities. One can have a garden. One can have animals. So one can have buildings. So to show respect does not mean that these objects or these persons must have achieved something as such. So respect must come from within, which is more of a perspective of the love which one has, that deep inner feeling which one has for that which is noble, which is of virtue. That is where respect springs from.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for your answer there. Definitely, one can reflect, more into that word respect. That then maybe the dictionaries, giving the proper perspective, as you say. So yes, it looks like the dictionary meaning is a little bit limited, and. But yes, so it, someone or something it says, but it can be another animal or something else as well. So which we are not, defining there. So yeah, I get that point. What we'll do, we'll continue, and I will just say the full title for the topic tonight is Respect, Love Thy Neighbor as Thyself. Now, I just want to again look in the dictionary. There are other words. So love is the next word there. And that says in the dictionary, an intense feeling of deep affection or a great interest and pleasure in something. So, Gregory, what would you say on that definition of love?
Well, as one had remarked before, that which is referred to here as love, the trigger, which is now represented by an intense feeling of deep affection or of great interest and pleasure in something, that which triggers these may be referred to as love. That which triggers it seems to, in its effect, to be binding. So, when it is said there is some bond or some binding, when one looks at it very well, the intuition behind it, that is more of what one will refer to as an attraction towards another for the purpose of ennobling. That which triggers an attraction for the purpose of ennobling, that one may refer to as love.
Thank you again, Gregory, for this picture and answer you've given. I could see already when I was reading out that definition that the dictionary meaning, it seemed to be somehow narrow and not really hitting the nail on the head at all. Because if I were to define it, I also would not quite put it the way they put it there. So yeah, thank you for pointing this out. And As I said, we will go further into these points later. And the next word I looked up in the dictionary, it says neighbor, and here in the dictionary it says a person living next door to or very near to the speaker or person referred to. That's one meaning it says. And then another one it says a person or place in relation to others, next or near to it. And thirdly, it says any person in need of one's help or kindness after the biblical use. So, Gregory, what would you say of that meaning there in the dictionary for neighbor?
Along the same line, you find these are expressions of neighbor as understood or as presented to us in our dictionary, therefore in our diction. Whereas that which is referred to as neighbor refers to what one may refer to those that have similar aim or the same aim. And that aim basically when one refers to human personalities, their aim, basically spiritual aim, is the cultivation of those skills or those virtues which have been sown into them. So when one has one's neighbor, it is assumed that that neighbor, being of spirit, needs to cultivate those virtues which have been sown into it. So neighborhood refers to basically the same aim, which is what we refer to many a time as one for all and all for one.
Thank you for that answer there again, Gregory. One thing that came up when you said that, if someone doesn't have the same aim, like you said about developing our virtues and so on, then they cannot be considered a neighbor. Is that what you're saying?
What one is saying, for human spirits, they have basically the same aim, for they are of spirit, and they are here to cultivate the virtues which has been implanted into them. Therefore, all human personalities, all human spirits have the same aim to cultivate that which has been implanted into them. What they make of it is a different thing.
Thank you so much for that clarification. In that way. Agree. For listeners, what led me to pick this topic tonight about respect, love thy neighbor as thyself, is because continuously in the news we are finding this topic coming up. Let's say, I won't go into specifics too much, every specific, just by saying a few words, you will automatically know what I'm talking about. So we know there's a Football World Cup happening at the moment, and there's some controversial things there about respect. As I said, I won't mention them specifically because I think people know what I'm saying. And as usual, there are at least two sides to the story, and you're wondering which side is being respectful to the other and vice versa. So we're going to explore that one. Then there's some other things in the news. There's the Russia-Ukraine war happening with lots of atrocities and so on there. And obviously we can talk about respect there as well, how people are behaving. And also in the UK, we've had some, you could say, news stories where there has been, I'll give an example as well here again. For example, in the London Fire Brigade, there was a review of the culture, and it has been found to be institutionally misogynistic and racist, and quite a significant number of things happening there. So maybe people are not aware of that one. So I just want to point, I'm going to just say that there was a report commissioned by the London Fire Brigade to review that culture because they had complaints there. And in fact, I believe one of the trainee firemen committed suicide because of the abuse they were receiving, and they were racially abused. So this led to not only that one, but that person actually committed suicide, like I said, but other incidents have happened, and then the chief of the fire brigade said, I want to review what's happening here. So that is where that is coming from. Another one which is similar is in the Navy, the Royal Navy, where there have been women claiming to be sexually abused, even raped, and they're feeling their complaints are not being dealt with properly. And even there's a fear, it's also in the fire brigade, there's a fear that if they do try to make a complaint, there will be some repercussions back on them, which will not be good for them, for their future. So these are you could say, the points which made me pick this topic tonight about respect. So what I want to then look at that, Gregory, let me go to the words, actually what Jesus said, because that's the second part, you could say the part of the topic tonight, is love thy neighbor as thyself. So that quote is from Jesus, and it comes, I'm going to read this, it's Matthew chapter 22, let me make sure I get this right, yes, verses 37, just make sure before I say that. In fact, it's 34. So I'm going to read that now from the Bible. So, yes. So this is Matthew chapter 22, verses 34 to 40. And it's headed as the greatest commandment. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together. One of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question: Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in law? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. And all the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. So these are the words of Jesus, which seem to be very clear and simple, but somehow it seems to have become very difficult for man or humanity to follow that. And Gregory, and those examples I gave of things happening in the news is just the proof of that it seems we can't seem to be able to, as I said, respect or even love each other. And Gregory, what has caused that we are unable to show respect and love? I'm sorry of the echo. There's an echo going on. Gregory, can you hear me?
Yeah, but the echo is still there. Okay. So stopped.
Yes, please, I don't know how it happens, and it happened last week as well, so I haven't been able to look at it yet. So just please respond to that question about how is it that humanity is not able to show respect and love in their, long time of existence?
Very simply because many have not gone deeply into the words of Christ, or they are too lazy to interpret these words in accordance with the laws of nature or the laws of creation. Basically, it is indolence. There's no other thing about it.
But Gregory, that's good. Thank you for that answer. Don't you think it's even deliberate as well? Because after living for thousands of years, we keep doing that and harming each other.
If one has been lazy for thousands of years without striving to grasp the intuitive meaning, then it remains the same. When you say deliberate laziness.
Right. Thank you for that. That's really does clarify the situation. Now, I mean, that's really, how can I say? I would say shameful, embarrassing, whatever the word can be put to it. But I still want to go deeper into that. So, Gregory, when these harms are happening, when we talk about the natural laws, there are consequences, when we do the harm. So how come those consequences don't seem to change us?
When you have many being indifferent, or the consequences do not appear almost immediately, even in the case where they appear immediately, or the effects of these manifest almost immediately, there is this innate stubbornness, not wanting to admit that has been the cause of many a problem. So a change only comes when one has experienced something intuitively in all its heights and depths. And having experienced this, wishes to move away from such, because such experiences are unpleasant to it. They themselves will wish to sow seeds, or will wish to make decisions, earthly decisions, decisions in their thoughts, and decisions in their intuitions, in such a way that in accordance with the laws of creation, having sown these seeds, the returns will bring blessing to them rather than terrible sorrow or terrible misery. But because you have sometimes the returns do not manifest immediately, but may manifest over time or over in a different earth life, many ignore these.
Thank you, Gregory, for this answer and picture again. I think that's really important, that point about intuitively experiencing the consequences of harming and not showing respect. So we're going to continue that a little bit more in a few moments. I just want to tell you listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's a Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the GRAIL message by Abdushin. If you are interested in knowing more about the GRAIL message or want to get a copy of the GRAIL message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is respect. Love thy neighbor as thyself. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we're broadcasting on Bless Radio 1.com. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, again, space, live stream. That's for the live show. You can also listen to the recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space, GRAIL message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is respect. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM / Bless Radio 1, the number 1. And again, apologies for the echo, which seems to come and go, and I'm not quite sure how and why it's happening. So just apologies for that, and I will have to explore it. I don't think we can resolve it straight away today. We will make sure we get it done properly next time. So, Gregory, now I really was trying to understand, how is it that we are not intuitively, understanding or learning from the consequences of the harms that happen when we do not show respect and love to our neighbor. And I know you mentioned violence, and it continues, over time, long time. But I think the deeper part is that we are not working intuitively and not experiencing the consequences intuitively. So I want to understand, and just looking at the phrase, love thy neighbor as thyself. If something happens to you, you definitely know how you feel. And then if something happens to your neighbor, you can say, if that happened to me, I also feel this way. So let's look at specific, as I mentioned. I mentioned a couple of cases where women are not treated well in a, say, male-dominated environment, in the work environment, which was the brigade, and also Navy's cases that I highlighted. Would you say, I mean, I'm trying to understand that if there's an indolence going on there, there's some sort of behavior, men, women, or men object to women being around them, environment. So, can there be something underneath that? This type of things. Again, these things have been going on for a long time as well. So, is it when we are together? I'm just speculating, and they behave this way when they're around them.
May I request that you reframe the question, because there seem to be many different paths coming in. Sometimes your voice goes off.
Okay, apologies. Okay. All right, it's clear now. I can hear myself as well. So, okay. So what I was talking about, Gregory, there's some reports, as I mentioned, of men and women working in the same environment, in a male-dominated environment. Let's say London Fire Brigade is an example. And the men have been, you could say verbally abusing the women and giving them, feeling of insecurity, you can say. So, you mentioned that lack of respect is due to the indolence. And I'm just thinking, in this particular case, is one category of people against another category, male versus woman. So is there something else going on there in that scenario? That's what I'm asking. Something else in that particular scenario about lack of respect of women?
The lack of respect which one has referred to, the lack of that attractiveness which leads to ennoblement, that's one which, again, one has referred to as indolence, which is the lack of not cultivating the virtues of courage or selflessness, or the virtue of diligence. Will the scenario you painted, would they have spoken to their mothers if their mothers were working in that environment in that way? So it is not gainsaying, it's not rocket science. What is not right is not right. That lack of respect only is exhibited by those people because they lack that particular virtue which needs to be exhibited when any fellow human personality who, like them, is striving to first improve themselves and make provisions for their own families, just as they themselves are doing. It is that lack of comprehension, or what one may refer to as indolence, in the appreciation, not working hard enough on themselves to appreciate that wherever you have tasks to be fulfilled, that task those people who are involved in the accomplishment of that task have to support one another. It is not rocket science. So that people have not cultivated these virtues only show itself by the way they care to interact with others.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Another thing I should have put into that question, because I said it's a male-dominated environment where women are working, and many of the, let's say some of those men may be thinking these women should not be here in this environment. This is a job for men, not for women. And so with the, I know you mentioned about virtues there, maybe there's some, you could say, prejudices or some other element also featuring, because it's not women doing anything to the men, although the women are the minority. It's the men seem to be, it's only some cases obviously, but it is prevalent. So is there some prejudice there to women from some men there?
Whatever one cares to call it, prejudice, short-sightedness, pride, envy, wrath, lust, slothfulness, it is basically the same thing. For just as you yourself are striving to make provisions for your family, so also are others. So it's not rocket science to know that if you do not want people to work with you in that environment, and if you wish to remain a gentleman, why not walk away from that environment and search for another? These days, there has been so much confusion as to who owns a particular environment. When one comes to the home, who are those who take care of the homes? Who are those who prepare the food in the homes? Should the woman now say, because the home belongs to her, therefore the man should not be an assistant, or the man should not help in the preparation of keeping the home the way it should be? Say, sometimes in the preparation of food, there should be flexibility in these matters. That there is rigidity, that rigidity comes from that particular personality who is not flexible enough to see that there is room for everyone.
Thank you so much for this answer, Gregory. I think, when you put that, as they say, perspective and the environment, as you've mentioned, if we consider the big picture in this clear, which everything becomes so clear, and then all the other, I don't know what word to use, indolence, lack of virtue, and whatever is not being applied, let's say, in the way it's supposed to be applied, is thrown in the window, out of the window, because you now see the proper picture how it's supposed to be. And there's really no excuse for any such behavior. As you said many times, all for one and one for all. And that's basically, can answer these questions very well. Thank you. Now, Gregory, let me go to another, as I say, controversial thing that is happening, as you know, in the World Cup, which we did mentioned it last time as well. But again, because of the topic of respect, I want to discuss it. So the main one that people seem to be talking in the news, Gregory, is about these, they call it LGBT rights in Qatar are not allowed, let's say, by the authorities there, and people who have those rights in the West, say, they seem to be unhappy that they're not allowed in Qatar. And so the question is about respect. That's what my question would be. We know that that's their system, or that their laws are there that way. And now, let's say, in this particular tournament, all people all around the world are all coming, and some of those countries, have different standards and laws, and they want that to be allowed, at least, let's say allowed in that Qatar. So, and it seems to be quite strong views, that are being pushed, if I can say that way, on both sides. If people are standing firm. So now we talked about, Gregory, already, all for one and one for all. So that is respect, isn't it? Everybody should show respect, whoever the human beings are, whichever way they are. But how what can I put that as a question now? So when we have in this particular case I'm talking about, Gregory, when we have two different views in this situation, and one is one country is saying we are sticking by what we are, but you need to respect our laws. What should be the respectful behavior there? Let me say that. How should it be respected?
First of all, the expression one for all and all for one is used basically in the perspective of the spiritual. That means it is the spiritual laws that one considers to be right. How those spiritual laws are then interpreted here in the earthly varies from person to person, from country to country. So you will find that which is spiritual, when not interpreted in accordance with the laws of creation, will cause so much problems within nations. How they themselves need to conduct themselves in times of challenges. Therefore, when people, whatever their orientations are, when they visit places, it is these people who must conduct themselves in such a way as to ensure that there is peace and harmony wherever they are. But what has always happened is that people live where they currently are, go to other places, and wish to bring their preconceived notions to another place without understanding, the slightest understanding of the challenges that these other people have. And these other people do not have the slightest understanding of the challenges of others. And that is what causes the confusion. The combined lack of the cultivation of the virtues. So if one is trying to find out, well, These are my rights. Rights only come into questions when duties have been fulfilled. When duties are not fulfilled, you cannot talk about rights. Just as you cannot permit someone to come into your house and talk about his rights, so yourself, you cannot go to some other person's house and talk about your rights. First, show respect for the host who strives to make available resources that will make you yourself comfortable. It doesn't mean that by showing understanding to your neighbor that you are weak. Most of the time, it is looking at each side, the lack of understanding of what rights are. That has always been the problem.
Thanks a lot, Gregory. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, good. Yeah, I thought I was on mute. So, yes, thank you very much for that answer and explanation. You know, when you give, let's say, another example, you know, of going to being a guest in someone else's home, you know, then you know it's quite clear who is the host and who's the guest, and you know how this is supposed to work. It's the host that decides what are the rules. So obviously it's quite clear cut. Somehow, as you said, Gregory, there seems to have become a confusion, even on both sides. You know, who is like the host and who's the guest here. So not in that way, but it's just the way the people are claiming rights to themselves, which are not theirs. And even Gregory, there's some sort of thinking that we are, although it's not said, somebody is superior to another, and that superior person has a higher right to sort of get their way or be able to push their way.
Such manifestations have arisen due to their own personal inferiority complex. For the one who really, in quotes, is superior, such a superiority will manifest within the virtues which they exhibit in all their thoughts, in their intuitions, in their physical activities. That even in their discussions, this superiority is not manifested in the courtesy, in the respect, shows that indeed they themselves are not superior.
Thanks for that, Gregory. Now, what I'm thinking, Gregory, we've talked about spiritual, sort of an intuitive, how can I say, perception of, you know, what is respect and what is love. And there seems to be maybe, I'm going to use the word intellectual interpretation or understanding of respect and love as well. Although I'm finding it hard to realize what that is. So maybe Greg, you can help with that. Is there some intellectual meaning of love and respect as well, which is, you know, which is at variance to the spiritual meaning of love and respect?
One can always discuss that which is spiritual, which is ennobling. The lack of it, very sadly, is what is exhibited. However, what you will find, because many have not sunk themselves into deep reflections of what these expressions are, respect, of love, and of neighbor, then you have the scenario where there is a limitation of these expressions. It is that limitations which had come into existence due to one's intellectual interpretation. It is that limitation that triggers much of the confusion. There is only one interpretation of respect, of love, and also of neighborhood, that which is spiritual. For that which is spiritual is stable, it is enduring, it is also based on diligence, it's based on courage and of compassion, of humility. That is what it should be. Any other thing is a distortion, and that which has been distorted does not grant the human personality the all-inclusive picture, which picture he or she must utilize in his or her everyday activities.
Thank you very much for this answer, Gregory. Definitely, we are now moving forward in our understanding and comprehension of respect and love. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's a Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the GRAIL message by Uprushing. If you are interested in knowing more about the GRAIL message or want to get a copy of the GRAIL message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, M-E-S-S-A-G-E. And you're listening to Bless Radio. We are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of this show also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space GRAIL message, space the topic of the show. Tonight is respect, love thy neighbor as thyself. And of course, listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno. That's zeno.f/bless radio 1, the number 1 again. And the topic we're discussing tonight is respect. Love thy neighbor as thyself. You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on my UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside the UK, it is 0044 I'm sorry, I cut off there. So the phone number is 0447939641958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, I want to talk about, freedom of speech. We know in our countries we have the free will. It is inherent in the spirit as a spiritual being, and there's a lot of again controversy about this freedom of expression when in the world. Maybe I will use this again in the news. So just let me make sure I got that right. Yes, currently the UK government is finalizing online safety bill, which is mainly aimed at children on social media platforms such as Facebook and Instagram. But it's not only for children, also for adults as well. But that was where it started. It's taken a long time for this bill to be ready to go to Parliament. And today it was revealed that there was a need to protect freedom of speech. So even if some content is deemed harmful but legal, it could not be banned. So the government would give users, consumers, say, to choose to restrict harmful content or not. This, they say, is freedom of choice, which they cannot impose against to cut people's freedom of choice. Despite we know there are potentially harmful consequences of people in this content, especially which is where this bill started. So I'm sorry, there is again echo going on. Now just able to follow me. So my question is, should freedom of choice be above the harmful should freedom be restricted to ensure that harm is let's say removed or banned, or the harm is, let's say, restricted? Let me say that again. You got me there. So,
sorry, could you make the question a bit simpler? Because
actually, making it simpler, but somehow it's. I think the echo is not helping.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that, and it's not really in my control. I apologize for that, listeners. So, Did you get my first part of the?
No.
You didn't. Okay. So. Okay, I'm going to say it quickly. So there's an online safety bill by the UK government, which is being introduced to protect children online. okay? Because it has been known that children have committed suicide, for example, by watching videos and things on Facebook or Instagram, something like that, and doing self-harm and so on. They were maybe depressed or something like that has happened. So as a result, after a lot of consultation, the government has come up with this bill, online safety bill. But it has taken a very, very long time to sort of even get close to the parliament. And today we discovered one of the reasons is there's something called freedom of choice or freedom of speech, which government cannot just stop, especially adults from having access to that freedom of speech just because they think something is harmful. So one of the examples they gave, something may be harmful but legal, and the government doesn't have a right to stop an adult, have access to that.
Can we stop there so we can respond to it?
That is not my question. That is not my question. That is the background. That was my background. I wanted to have that understanding of where all this is coming from. So the question is simply, can freedom be restricted despite it can cause harm?
Maybe I cannot really get the impulse of the question. One thing one may say is that within every government, which government represents the people, there are structures which have been put in place. Structures like the police force to ensure that although people are free to make their decisions, they should go about it in such a way that they do not infringe on the decisions of others who, like them, are trying to make a living. And there are also rules which have been put in place by society to ensure harmony. So when it came to the case of freedom of choice, which is always there, you will find in the case of children, they are not yet adults. Many a child learn through imitation. And therefore, if they come in contact with that which is not helpful for their maturing because they are being exposed too early to that which adults find challenging, were they to copy that, then that will not be helpful for their harmonious development. So freedom of expression, freedom of choice is welcomed. However, it must also take into consideration that all the people who live on earth are not at the same stage of maturity to be able to decide for themselves. After all, you cannot say the rules that apply to a 2-year-old, those rules should apply to an adult. All the rules that apply to an adult should be put in place for a 1-year-old child. There must be a careful categorization of the maturity in accordance with age. Even with that, one has to be very careful. So one you cannot advise that in a place, in a community where all are not of the same maturity, because there are minors, there are children, the same rights must be granted them so that they can choose whatever they wish to choose. That will not be right. But very simply, the child is still growing. It cannot make decisions for himself. For there are so many pitfalls nowadays. Would you then allow a child to jump into a car and start driving when he or she hasn't matured to that extent, where he's able to know the rules that will help to strengthen it? So the way one understands it is that there must be careful study of the society to know those people who are still minors, such that they are protected and taken away or separated from the adults when the adults are having their own discussions. Because of this freedom of choice and children can learn anything, do anything, there have been stories, which are facts, where growing children have been made to experience that which only adults should experience sexually. There have been also stories like you find in the case of war, where children who are just growing up have been made to experience horrors. Horrors in the sense that these children, learn by imitation. Should they then very quickly imitate what these soldiers do and start shooting? So there must be careful investigation. Above all, what has been lacking has been the lack of spiritual maturity. That fineness which manifests itself in virtues, that has been lacking. And that being the case, you now have all these caricatures and the arguments that accrue from them.
Thank you, Gregory, for this answer. And definitely your point of maturity is very valid. So yes, just to get more clear about the question, the issue, yes, there's about children and adults. Obviously, they need to be treated differently. There's no doubt on that. And the further, you could say, nuance of the this discussion or this point is how to treat the adults themselves, because, as you say, the adults do have, you could say, their freedom to choose and to express. And what the government was concerned is that if they limit that adult freedom of choice or expression, they would be in trouble with the existing laws. So they said, oh, if something is legal at the moment, it might be harmful, but it's legal. An adult can have access because it is an adult. A child, yes, no, they are not allowed. That was clear. That was the. So they were now. It was the issue. The connection with the adult was their, let's say, concern that how do they deal with that when there's a potential. Yes, it's harmful, but an adult has a choice to access it or not access it. It's their choice, and the government doesn't have a right to intervene and say, no, you adult, we don't allow you to do this. So that was the, if I can say, the nuance about that this question, and I just wanted to give the background of it initially. So Gregory, to bring another question from that, we know there's a variety of maturity amongst the adult human beings on the earth. So would there be a restriction on certain adult human beings because of the certain maturity, another restriction on another level of maturity? Would there have to be something like that?
When you say should there be restriction, who puts into place the restrictions on adults?
The government.
Is it the adults who will now restrict themselves?
Well, it's in this case, it's the government making the law, so they are deciding that. But in this case, they're saying it's not our right to govern that. It's adults have the choice. We cannot stop, it's their right as an adult to choose yes this or no this. It's their choice.
Well, but the government makes a decision as regards firearm belonging to the military, makes decisions as regards biological weapons to ensure that people don't have access to it, makes decisions as regards safety in the way cars are driven, makes decisions about buildings, how they are erected. The government does all this. What has been lacking has been the lack of deep intuition in their reflections in these matters. For were it there, then some of these arguments will not be there. What has always happened is that people get together, they look at things superficially, albeit when we started this program, most of the time, a lot of these things came from the dictionary, which has very limited perception, limited understanding. That has always been the case. And because they want to base their interpretation on the dictionary, upon which many illegal structure is built up, then you have the structures which have been put in place being so very limited. That which has to do with one's intuition, which has to do with the laws of nature, will be such that when these structures are put in place, the structures are erected such that they will have also very deep intuitive implications, such that when returns come in the future, it will ensure only that which is ennobling will be the returns, rather than making very shallow laws. Before long, the whole thing breaks down and they keep shifting and shifting.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for that answer there. I think what the big point you've made there is about things should be assessed when laws or whatever is, put forward, is whether it is ennobling or not. And I'm not sure. So when, like, for example, we're talking about freedom, then saying, oh, freedom, yes, you can do this, you can do that, but what's the foundation of that freedom? Is it about ennobling? Is it about something else? And I don't think they have thought of that in their assessment. It's just having freedom is what they're saying. Is you are adult, you can have freedom. But yes, of course they think about harm, like you say, about guns and so on, but somehow there's not a deep assessment going on in their, or let's say thorough assessment going on in this, in developing their laws or whatever policies they want to do. So thank you for that. Now, I've got another one about freedom. Let me just see. So yeah, I'll use that as well. Gregory, Elon Musk has bought Twitter now, and before Twitter had put some rules that certain people are restricted from expressing themselves because they're giving, from their assessment, misinformation. It doesn't matter what the topic is and who the person is according to their assessment, this has happened. Now Elon Musk says he claims that there's freedom for everyone, and so he's removing those restrictions to those people. Let's say we hear every week this particular person or that particular thing is now, let's say, the ban has been removed. So on Twitter, that is, I'm talking about, this is again, Gregory, we're talking about freedom of expression here. And so, and obviously somebody has to police that. In this case, it is Elon Musk now, but I'm just using that again as an example. I'm wondering, Gregory, how does, one decide, what is, you could say, harmful or beneficial, or, how can one person, this was an organization, make a policy or a decision that this is harmful or not harmful, basically should be allowed or not allowed in terms of freedom of expression here, is what I'm saying. How is that assessed? Oh, I'm
just
sorry,
waiting for it to go down. Well, it would have been maybe that question should be asked to the person. If another person goes, collects information or falsify information about that particular personality and spreads it around, since he himself said people are free they have freedom of speech. That means the freedom of speech to destroy others or the freedom of speech to ennoble others. Now, it becomes very clear. If he himself, who made that rule that many have the freedom of decision to destroy others, if that is followed to the letter, it means they themselves can also make rules, lie about this, and inflict it on that personality who made those rules that it is free for all. As usual, you find when a human personality makes decisions, there are no deep intuitions attached to it. They talk of freedom. Of what do they understand freedom to be? Freedom can only be discussed in terms of the spirit. The spiritual free will, which, however, is to ennoble the human personality. The human personality that has come here to experience, to learn from experiences, to build up, to cultivate the virtues. When those virtues are not cultivated, then the opposite is what happens. So, subsequently, you will have pride. If the freedom of decision leads to pride, then it is not freedom of decision. If it leads to greed, then it is not freedom of decision because it doesn't ennoble the human spirit. If it is, which leads to envy, which leads to falsehood, then the returns of these, which the human personality has sown into creation, these will come sooner or later, here or hereafter. Now, each personality must ask themselves, will they wish to sow seeds? The entanglements, when these seeds mature, the entanglements which stops them from moving forward, will they like that? Which then restricts their views, which then restricts their decision because they have narrowed themselves. Will that be progress spiritually? These are the questions that each personality must ask themselves. Each one is free to make decisions. However, they should make decisions in such a way that they should not have a negative impact on those who, like them, are striving to make decisions also so as to improve themselves and cultivate those virtues and return home as self-conscious human personalities. The freedom is always there. Whoever plants seeds or whoever initiates activities which subdues or which inhibits the views of others, which suppress the views of others who are striving to develop themselves nobly, such will have put a seed in nature, in life, in words or deeds, in their thoughts or in their intuitions. They themselves have therefore restricted themselves. That is the law. And that is why the stress is on that which is spiritual. For that which a human personality has sown, that he or she must definitely reap, here or hereafter.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this picture and answer there. And we're going to continue the discussion more on that in a moment. Dear listeners, you are listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the GRAIL message by Abdushin. If you are interested in knowing more about the GRAIL message or want to get a copy of the GRAIL message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is respect. Love thy neighbor as thyself. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we're broadcasting on blessradio1, the number 1.com. Also, you can listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space, live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space, GRAIL message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is respect. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows as well on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1, the number 1. Now, Gregory, let's talk about the family, respect in the family. Usually, it's meant to mean that the young or children are supposed to obey their parents. But we always, there's always some situation where there's an argument or dispute, whatever it is. And, the two sides, maybe that's not the right way to put it, parents and the children are disagreeing. And the child has to bow to the parents. That's the rule, or that's an accepted behavior, let's say. Now, and you're talking about respect here and love, showing love and respect. And of course the children are growing, we know that, and they're forming their personality and so on. So Gregory, would you say when it's talking about love and respect in that scenario, is there one side, if I can use that word side, parents who have to give more than the children because of you could say, one is developing and the other one is supposed to be more mature?
In the scenario you yourself just put forward, the tasks are there for parents, for children. In the first instance, the parents, being more matured, should strive to understand or to grasp the strengths and, to some extent, the weaknesses of these children. Only when they have a good understanding of the strengths and the weaknesses of these children, only then are they able to assist these children. Else, they are unable to assist. If along the line, a parent wish the child to become a doctor or an engineer, and the child does not move towards that direction, then in all naturalness there will be problems, because the parents are putting their own personal wish instead of first understanding that of the child whom they wish to educate. To educate someone means to first sense what that person carries within him or her, and help that person to ensure that talent or skill comes to fruition. To educate someone by ignoring this talent the person has is tantamount to destroying the personality, because you are now asking the child to swing with a different frequency from that which he or she harbors deep within. So the challenge first is for parents to know the responsibilities they themselves have taken to ensure the child is educated properly. If it goes along such a line, in all naturalness, the child who has not yet matured, who learns by copying, who learns by imitation, will in all naturalness open up, learn new things, and will be eager to move forward, because that which they carry deep within them is coming to fruition. That is what education is supposed to mean. However, things have turned the other way, in which the parents don't even know what their duties are, because they lack the knowledge of what their duties and tasks are before these children, since they themselves did not prepare themselves for it. You now have more like the blind leading the blind. They demanding obedience which they themselves could not even give, even at that age.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for this answer and again the picture you've put forward for us. It just shows we need to really appreciate, what is our role, and and how to go about it. So, and again, as soon as we have the right understanding, things become clear and how you have to move forward. So thank you for that. Now, I've got another point or question. Just a second, I just want to make sure I've got it, what I want to say there. Okay, another one, sort of, you could say slightly family-orientated question. Gregory, we have you could call it the older generation and the younger generation. And whenever that, when the two interact, let's say they have their different views or ways or practices, let's say. And so again, the question comes about showing respect. The young want to do their own ways, which is something new, what they would say themselves fun or even maybe weird for the older ones, the way the older ones would see that. And maybe they would frown upon it even, the older ones that I mean, on the younger generation and how they behave. And when I think about it, Gregory, I'm laughing because I'm thinking, well, when you yourself as an older one was young one time, you would be probably doing the same thing then. So it seems to carry on in every young versus the old, I don't say versus, but the interaction between young and the old generation. So, and the question is, should let's say the old generation considers what the young generation is doing is not right, or they don't like this new way or practice that they're adopting. So how do they show respect there? Is it really a tolerance to give them the leeway to, that these people are growing and they will just, mature by themselves, or is there to tell the older generation telling the younger one, no, this is not right, don't do this?
What you will find is whether it is young generation or old generation, as long as they are adults, what is of value to the human personality are the virtues. The difference that has come in is how they, the old generation or the young generation, go about the cultivation of these virtues at a particular age or a particular generation. These are also tied to the seasons in one's life. As you will very well know, the age of childhood is there, of early adulthood is there. Then you have the so-called middle age and the old age. These are different categories, although linked. At a particular age or a particular generation, many act so very quickly, whereas in old age, there is this gradual reflection. So these are natural, and any knowing person must allow these growing ones, even the so-called elderly ones, they are also learning and growing, to manifest their skills, their understanding, based on the age in which they are. It is how they go about this manifestation, which one may say has become an exaggeration. That means they are burning their candles at both ends, or they are taking things in a careful manner. What really counts are the cultivation of these virtues.
Thank you so much for this answer, Gregory. It again brings the whole context of, growing up and going to adulthood and old age and so on. So each one, like you said, is a season. So once you put that into that concept, there is things again become, you could say, you're easily able to accept it and understand it. So thank you for this answer. Now, Gregory, we have people with opinions, and there are differences there, and we say people are passionate about their views, and so on, and when they interact, they might argue, or with anger or passion or even conviction, Gregory. So when this scenario happens, the two sides, let's say, they're both having a strong opinion or conviction, how should they conduct themselves? Is it one side that's politely, they cannot achieve an agreement. It's not possible to achieve an agreement. So one should, let's say, keep quiet on one side, after the discussion, or still like push their view.
It depends on what you are referring to. One thing must be made very clear is that you yourself mentioned their opinions. And because these are personal opinions, they vary in accordance with the person who utters these opinions. Whereas that which is of value, which is of eternal value, is what is considered. For that person who has intuitively experienced that which is of value would have cultivated humility. That person has skill. That person has courage and also diligence and modesty. Such a person will not be given to anger, for anger will distort what he or she is striving to achieve. So wherever anger and force and insults come in, then that personality is still not refined enough for that which brings eternal values. Most of the time, these people are afraid that before long, that which they hold very dearly will be discovered one will find out that that which they hold dearly, strictly speaking, is not durable enough, it is not strong enough in its structures, and it is self-contradictory. For many, it becomes the basis for attack of others. Whereas those who have cultivated or strive to cultivate these virtues will go their way quietly, put their views across gently, and will ensure that there is harmony.
Thank you for this answer there, Gregory. Again, when these things are happening, you may not be able to see, there's two sides can't find an answer or come together, as you say, come to harmony, let's call it like that. Rather, each one in quotes become maybe selfish and say, no, I'm right, you're wrong, and this is how it has to be, and the other person doing the same. And of course, we get nowhere. So unless you stand back, you won't see, oh, what's happening here. You're just thinking, I'm fighting for my view, or I use the word opinion there, Gregory, but it could even be conviction. Two people having opposing convictions, and they're still saying, no, I'm right, the other one is wrong. I have to fight it, because if I don't fight, I will be appeasing that. So that's one of the things I was thinking, Gregory. If you don't stand up for your conviction, I'm going to call it that way, uh, the people will say that is an appeasement. And then if that happens, uh, let's say some evil is happening, and you stand back and not oppose it or not respond strongly against it, then the evil will succeed. So how do we have peace in that situation?
Peace must be earned. Peace is not a scenario in which there is no motion, in which there is no interaction. Peace will only come when people engage amongst themselves and ensure that whatever structures are put in place is for the benefit not only of one person, but for the benefit of all. And that is what has been stressed by one for all and all for one. To stand up for your convictions, the question one will ask, what are these convictions? Are these convictions that you have the right to suppress, to enslave another personality who, like you, is striving to gain consciousness and self-consciousness? Is that the conviction? For if that is what many think, then they lack the conviction, the self-conviction. The self-conviction in the sense that they must first purify themselves to know that just as they are permitted to breathe, so are others. Just as they themselves wish to eat bread, so are others. And just as they have skills and talents which they must cultivate, so are others. So, where comes that personal conviction of the suppression of others? There is actually no basis for it. And many a time, when that seemed to be the case, where another wished to suppress others, they only do it in the belief, not the conviction, that the other personality lacks the ability to summon for help. But as soon as the other personality, through his or her nature, summons for help, then the aggressor finds that he or she is unable to stand. So it is always the case that personality who needs peace and strives for peace will go about its activities as calmly as possible. but will not tolerate the activities of others that seeks to enslave it.
Thank you very much for this answer there, Gregory. Dear listeners, we've come to the end of the show tonight. Hope you've enjoyed the discussion on respect, love thy neighbor as thyself. And yes, as usual, as we've come to the end of the show, I like to read from the foreword of the GRAIL message, which is titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such, it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore, awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God, Abdushin. And just to remind you, if you want to pick up the GRAIL message or want to get information on the GRAIL message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing them a beautiful week.
Same from me, listeners. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic. Have a great week. God bless. Good night.